Hello, everyone. I'm Bob White, Regional Vice President for Broadpin, and I'll be your host this month for this month's version of JDE Talks. As always, we'd like to make this an interactive session, so if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and at the end, after our demo, we will get to those and give you some answers. Today, we're going to be talking with our friends with Reports Now, Candy Coons and Victor Domini. Candy, Victor, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Bob. My name is Victor Domini. I'm responsible for sales globally here at Reports Now. And Candy, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Candy. I'm Director of Pre-Sales. Thanks for joining today, and I think you'll be really excited about what you're going to see today.
Well, welcome. Before we get into the presentations, I want to give you a little bit of information about Broadpin. Over the years, you may have known us as many different names: Quister, Pomatis, Project Partners. 4 different partners, all coming under the name of Broadpin to serve the Oracle community, covering many different areas, all under the Oracle umbrella. Anything from EBS, JD Edwards, OCI, and Cloud Fusion. With that, we now have over 650 clients, globally 500 employees with a collective years in business of over 109 years. So we bring a lot of experience to the table. Enough about Broadpin. Let's talk about Reports Now. We've had a long-standing partnership with Reports Now, and this is actually Reports Now's second JDE Talks joining us on JDE Talks. So welcome, Reports Now. Victor, why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of Reports Now?
Yeah, you bet, Bob. Thanks. We were founded 23 years ago by the guy that built Data Browser, Enterprise Report Writer, and many other tools that the JD Edwards users on this call will know well. Plus, over the years, we've assembled the team that built much of Enterprise One. So all the native JDE reporting tools, the finance module, the scheduler, and many other things were built by our team. So in short, we've really put together a team of JD Edwards superstars that have built what is by a significant margin the #1 most used JD Edwards reporting and analytics solution in the world. Roughly 1,500 or so installations today.
That's interesting. There's a lot of other companies out there with reporting tools. Why should a customer choose Reports Now? What sets you guys apart?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, there are several things, Bob, frankly. I mean, first, there's an enormous amount of JD Edwards specific intelligence that is baked into the DNA of our solution suite that just isn't available elsewhere. Secondly, we truly build everything with the end user in mind. So novice users to extremely advanced users can build reports very quickly, and they don't even have to know table names or any kind of JDE jargon. And I really have to mention our service levels here as well. Our support team on the technical side, they respond on average in 39 minutes, which is just unheard of. I'm not aware of anyone else that can really say that. As well, our licensing is another difference. We offer true concurrent licensing, which people love. And that means that as well, one license here with our solution gives users access to all JDE modules based on their inherited JDE security. So no need for one user to have multiple licenses to access different JDE modules. And then there's really one more big thing that sets us apart. Our competitors have really all but abandoned new development for JDE in favor of other ERPs, while we continue to innovate at an extremely high level. JDE, at the end of the day, is really our community. It's our home. So we're committed to offering them our best.
That's interesting. A lot of other partners, there's a lot of different pricing strategies out on the market. How does your pricing compare to the competition?
Well, that actually sets us apart as well. So thanks for that reminder. We're very intentionally the best price solution in the JDE space, which isn't normal for a #1 solution, but it's important to our CEO that whoever wants or needs our software is able to afford it. So we will not be beat on price. It's never happened in my 12 years here. In fact, we're able to replace the #2 solution in this space for a total year 1 cost that is less than or equal to what their customers pay in annual maintenance alone. So of course, annual maintenance cost drops substantially in subsequent years as well.
Interesting. You mentioned that you continue to invest in the product. Can you talk about some of the new functionality?
Yeah, in fact, yeah, we have a new release we're really excited about. There are three key enhancements that I can share today. The first one, users can now embed comments as part of their reports and link them to specific column values or groupings. This new comment feature improves a lot of things like transparency across teams. It supports audit documentation, and it really simplifies handoffs and chain of custody types of processes. Plus, those comment logs capture username, timestamp, and the context of each comment. The second feature that I'd like to discuss is users now have the ability to arrange parameters in a variety of ways directly from the parameter panel that they've always worked in. And that's going to make it possible to save space on the report. Filtering options are now more clearly outlined. And we also have new cascading parameters that allow for sublevels of parameters to update dynamically based on selections made in the preceding parameter hierarchy. The third big one for the IT folks out there, we've made significant network layer updates that improve performance for remote users and eases load balancing for administrators. And we also already have a plan for our next release that will rival this one in terms of positive impact. Lots of excitement.
That's a that's a lot of great stuff. Well, enough of the Q&A. Why don't you do a quick introduction to Reports Now, and let's get into the demos.
Yeah, you bet. So again, my name is Victor. I'm Vice President of Sales here, so I oversee sales as well as account management and our team that takes care of our customers the way they deserve to be. I'm going to do a quick intro of the company, a little bit about what makes the solution unique, and then I'm going to turn this over to Candy, who will show you the good stuff in the demo. Some of the stuff we've kind of highlighted in the chat here with Bob, but just a few things that really stand out about Reports Now. In large part, the team that built Enterprise One works here. So again, you're going to find JDE specific intelligence in this solution that is very unique. And I know everyone says this, but we truly value our partnerships with what we call a white glove level service, whether that's a partner like Broadpin or it's a partner like you guys. We want to go to great lengths to make sure that we service your needs. And all of that taken together has allowed us to be, as I mentioned earlier, by a large margin, the number one most used JDA reporting analytics solution in the world, getting close to about 1,500 installations today. And these are just some of the better known brands that are customers today. And almost all of these have been customers for a long, long time. In terms of the solution and really what makes it different, we have the only native connection to JD Edwards in the world. So we operate much more like a JD Edwards application than a third-party bolt-on. And in the end, the most important thing for us is that it means that any user is going to be able to use this of any skill level, and reports are going to be able to be built very quickly, and that's going to be very clear to you when Candy jumps in her demo. But because of that native connection, we're truly plug and play with JD Edwards, meaning that instead of like a day of installation time and then additional days for configuration and all that kind of thing, we have a 30-minute installation, and I even hesitate to call it just an install because it's really a rollout because you're live at that point. You're ready to build reports and forms and dashboards. After that 30-minute install, we're inheriting your data security from JD Edwards, all of your localizations for things like language and formatting for currencies and dates. And then let's face it, half of building a report is finding your data. We make that very easy. Candy is going to show you what we call our Google-like search that allows you to find the tables, the business views, your custom tables. Again, all of this is straight out of the box after your install, but you're going to be able to use natural language to find those things rather than having to know JDE table names or any kind of jargon. Tons of built-in calculations and drill downs. We have a financial wizard that allows you to build things uh, without having to really build a report at all. You're selecting some things from some drop downs, maybe clicking some radio buttons, and it will generate your financials automatically for you. And then what you're going to see here today is real-time development and it's real-time consumption. Quickly, this is really our entire solution suite here, and I'll highlight each one very briefly. DAS at the top, that's your real-time read-only ad hoc solution. That's Gosh, it's fast, it's easy. You're going to get from 0 to 80% of where you want to go faster and easier than anything else that's out there. Going clockwise, Moby is your visualization solution. that allows for really an automated data warehouse there where the users can build reports and dashboards on their own without having to go to IT. Down from that, Automator, it does this as its name implies. It allows you to automate your entire distribution process. It also manages refresh rates for your Mobi dashboards. At the bottom, Easy Shapes is a tool that we built because most visualization solutions allow you to pick your widgets from what they have as a selection. With Easy Shapes, you have the ability to create custom shape files out of any image that might be specific to your business, like let's say it's a sales territory map or like a supply chain route. Anything that's unique to your business, Easy Shapes will not only make that into a shapefile, then you can upload that into Mobi, tie data to it, and it becomes an interactive widget with all your other widgets in your dashboard. Up to the left there, templates. We have about 540 pre-built reports that are fully customizable that are available to you that span all the JDE modules. And then lastly, we have a learning management system that we simply call the Academy that really buttons it all up. There are about 1,100 lessons out there that are fully searchable. It's fully, it's multilingual. Uh, those bite-sized videos are going to show you step by step how to do just about anything you want to inside of DAS. And now this is all fine and good. I mean, everybody puts their best foot forward in a demo and says good things about their product. We don't want you to take our word for it. We want you to try it. We offer our free 30-day trial where we really go arm in arm with you to make sure that you see and experience everything that you need to in order to make a great decision in the end. We're very motivated for you to do that trial because a lot of times people do a side-by-side trial with DAS and other solutions trying to make let the best software win. The last time a prospective new customer did that, did a side-by-side trial with DAS and anything else out there and did not purchase DAS in the end, this coming July will be 11 years ago. So we're very motivated for you to do the trial. So I'm going to turn this over to Candy and let her share the good stuff with you.
All right, thanks, Vic. So you all can see my screen right now, correct? It's a statement of cash flows?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Before I dive into our software, Data Access Studio, I'm going to show you some of the end results that are possible first. And I want you to keep in mind that all of these started with a report in DAS. And that report can be based off of one table. It can be based off of multiple tables. It could be strictly non-JD Edwards data. It could be JD Edwards data mirrored with JD Edwards data. But the point is that all of this starts with one report and that you can add on these different formatting layers. This first one that I'm showing you is, it's two things actually. It's a statement of cash flows, and Vic mentioned templates. This is one of the templates that we have that are fully customizable. And the other thing that it does is it utilizes Excel functionality, which we call the presentation layer. So everybody pretty much knows how to use Excel. So what you can do with that layer is that you can do things like we see here with the box around the outside, put in formatting and colors, and that from the template portion of it, you could go in and change the rows, add in your own depreciation expense accounts, that kind of stuff. But the beauty of this is that the formatting stays with the report. The next time that you go in and run the report, it'll automatically have this format, and you don't need to do that formatting over and over and over. So again, this is two things. It's part of the templates that we have, part of the 540. It's fully customizable, and it uses the presentation layer, which is Excel. Along those same lines, you can do something else like this with Excel. So this is what we call a consolidation, a burst consolidation that gets sent through email. And that you can tell on the bottom that has different tabs for my countries or regions or whatever this represents. It's the same report, essentially. It has the same visualizations at the top, the same columns, the same rows. But what's nice about this, you can include in table of contents if you wanted to. There's the tabs at the bottom to break and show individual information, but then this automatically gets emailed out to the users. So rather than them signing into DAS and running these independently, you can bundle them together and send them out via email. So that's another format that we have. Something else that you can do once you get your report created is that you can create dashboards. So what I'm going to do, and this uses Mobi that Vic mentioned on our product suite. This is just a combination, a slideshow of a bunch of different dashboards that we have. So the thing that I really like about dashboards, I love the presentation layer. I'm a huge fan about the presentation layer, but that data is stagnant. And we all know with visuals, if you can, make things visual for the users, you can really it really helps you understand the data more, and you can answer a lot more questions about your data rather than just looking at a report with columns and rows. The thing about a dashboard is that you can interact with it. So again, like I said, I love the presentation layer and it makes the data visual, but the dashboard takes it up a notch. So this just happens to be an inventory dashboard. And what I'm going to do here is filter on one of the products. And that when I do that, you'll see that everything on the dashboard updates accordingly. When, as a designer, you create this dashboard, you get to determine what kind of widgets that you want, how you want them to interact together. You can enable the drill downs, you can enable filtering, things like that. This particular dashboard incorporates colors. So what I'm trying to do here is that if the inventory gets within certain thresholds, to alert the user. So if it's within certain thresholds, like the inventory is getting kind of low, then go ahead and highlight it in yellow. And if it gets to a danger point, highlight it in red. And when you do that, it really alerts the user to things that they need to be aware of. Something else that you can do within dashboards, and actually throughout all of DAS, is that you can incorporate hyperlinks. So what this hyperlink is doing is actually going out there and going into JD Edwards, into the purchase order application, so that I can order this part that is in a danger point. These hyperlinks don't have to go to JD Edwards exclusively. They can go to other places, but that's really nice functionality that we offer, is that you can hyperlink to make it easier for your new users to navigate. Another thing that you can do with dashboards is that I'm going to go ahead and sign into E1 here. And that dashboard that I just showed you a second ago, that inventory dashboard, you can take that and directly embed it into E1 using their functionality called Cafe One and Pages. So this is a page that I have named Candy's Inventory Dashboard. This is the exact same dashboard I showed you a second ago. It has all that functionality of being able to drill down, but the advantage is that you can place it within E1 where the users are going to be normally, rather than them having to navigate to their portal page. That's the E1 page functionality. The other place that you can incorporate it is with their functionality called Cafe One. So I just went into a work with companies application. Notice that over on the right-hand side, there's a purchase order dashboard. That dashboard was created in DAS from a report. It was published. And that once I get the URL, then I can embed it into E1 using their functionality called Cafe One. And this time, notice when I click on a company, the dashboard over here on the right-hand side is going to actually update and show me purchase orders for that company. So that's some nice functionality too. The other thing that we have as part of our product suite is a forms designer. We call that Pro Reports. So let me get to that and show you that really quick. Hopefully I spelled that right. And so you can create specific forms. And a lot of times, like with invoices or statements or things, certain things like that, you need your controls to land on a specific portion of the page. And that's what this forms design editor allows you to do. You can tell by looking at this is a completely different format than the other examples that I showed you. And again, this is another part of our product suite that we offer for you. That's called Pro Reports, which is the ability just to create forms. Okay, so with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and sign into DAS, and let's show you how to get started with creating a report. Some things that I want to point out is that DAS is read-only access to your data. We don't give you a backwards way to get into JD Edwards or even to any of your external data sources and update the data. It's read-only access. When you sign into DAS, you're going to sign in with your login with your JD Edwards credentials. So that's kind of nice. When you do that, that allows us to go in and inherit some of the things from JD Edwards. You know, Vic mentioned that we operate like we're part of a JD Edwards application, and this is how we do that. When you log in, we're going to inherit your data security from JD Edwards, the row and column security. So if you're excluded from or secured from things within JD Edwards via row and column security, that's going to come over right into DAS. It's also real-time reporting. So what that means is that as a designer, you can create a report and use it right away. And that you can share it with others and they can use that right away and get your real-time data. We don't have that package build process that you're probably used to within E1 currently. You create a report, you can use it, you can share it, and you can get runtime data right away. So that's really nice. As Vic mentioned, we have a concurrent licensing model. So there's two types of licenses for DAS. There's a designer who is the report creator and a subscriber who is the end user. And a concurrent licensing model means that, for example, if you have 10 designer licenses, any 10 designers can sign in at the same time, not only 10 designers ever. So that's one thing that makes us really unique is our concurrent licensing model. Okay, so let's get started. I have the JDE icon highlighted here, and what that's doing is it's bringing all over the JD Edwards tables and business views, including any of your custom tables or business views. He mentioned the Google-like search, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So what you're doing when you're starting to build a report is trying to get to where the data lives, right? That's where the data is. You're going to build your report based off of that data. If you know the name of the table, you can actually type it in along the top, and that you can see in the result set, it's showing you any of the tables or business views that have something to do with that table. If you don't know that, that's okay. You can type in words up here. So like I could type in accounts payable along the top here. And again, it's going to return any of the tables or business views that have something to do with those words. You can also use the screen name. Oops, sorry about that. So if you're in JD Edwards, you know, all of the screens have a name in the upper left-hand corner. You can use that to search for when you're in DAS also. And when you're in JD Edwards, if you use that help icon in the upper right-hand corner, that question mark icon, it'll show you the name of the program that starts with a P. It'll show you the name of the form that starts with a W and the name of the business view. And you can use any of these pieces of information along the top to search to get you started to help you figure out where the data lives. So that's one thing that makes it really nice is that you don't necessarily have to know the table names. I'm going to go ahead and open up this table. If you don't know this table, that's okay. Don't get hung up on that. I'm going to show you, I want you to focus on the concepts. I'm going to come in and do get sample data. And the thing that I want you to notice, a couple things right off the bat, is I use my slider bar, is that we bring over all of the columns for you. We don't decide which columns that you get to see. They all come over. And along the lines of the JD Edwards smarts that we inherit, I want you to notice the dates are in the format that I have specified in my user profile coming from JD Edwards. So here in the US, we do month, day, year, but you probably want your format to be different. And however your profile is set up in JD Edwards, it's going to come across that way. So that's really nice right out the gate. You don't have to convert the dates. We know how you want them to display. And along those same lines, it's the same thing for any of the amounts. We're going to know exactly how many dollar amounts to show. And the same thing with the items. There's some of those items that have 4 decimals. We're going to know how to display that information for you right away. You don't have to do any of the conversion. So that's one example of our inherited smarts. Okay, so as we're looking at this, it has way too many columns. You probably don't need all those columns. So we have different ways to go through and grab some of the columns. So what I'm doing is I'm using my control key and left mouse to select those columns. And then I'm going to quickly right click. We do lots of right clicking in DAS, and that's intuitive based on the other programs that we use. So I'm going to right click and then notice I can hide those columns that I selected or do show only. I'm going to do show only, and look how easily it eliminates all those other columns. That's easy. So then at this point, if you decide, well, I need some additional columns, the other thing that you can do is go up into design columns and go in this way. This shows you all the columns we saw a minute ago. They're just presented in a vertical format instead of horizontal. I can scroll through the list and choose other columns if I want to. The ones I'm currently seeing have a checkbox in this visible column. But what's nice when you come in this way is you can use wildcards. So if I want to see all of my dates together, notice I put in an asterisk and a date, and I can grab a couple of the other date columns that I want to see. I like doing this a lot of times for the amounts, because usually in these tables, there's a lot of different amount columns, and I like to see them together. So I can do that. You can also search by the alias. So if you happen to know that like MCU is business unit, or AN8 is address number, MC or CO is company, AT1, if you happen to know those aliases, you can use those to grab your columns. We don't ever expect you to know the aliases, but if you've been around JDE for a while, you're probably very familiar with those aliases, and then you can use them to search for your columns. Okay, so now I have some more columns in here. Usually what people want to do at this point is rearrange the columns. So all I'm doing is dragging and dropping and moving the columns around to however I want them to display. That's easy based on, how we use other programs. And then maybe I want to rename some columns. So we're in accounts payable, and usually people refer to that as vendors or suppliers. So I'm going to right click, do that famous right click, and choose rename. And that I'm just going to simply rename this to like vendor number. You can right click on any of these columns here. There's no restrictions. You can right click and rename any of the columns. So again, that's really easy. Now at this point, if you want the name for your vendors to come back, because nobody's going to know these names or the names based off of the numbers off the top of your head, we make this so easy for you as a developer. All you have to do is do a double click, and then notice the name comes back for you. So if you've been around other tools, in other tools, that's not an easy thing. You actually have to do a table join and go out to the associated table and bring back the name. In DAS, we make that easy for you. All you have to do is a right click. So then I probably want to rename that one and call this one vendor name. I don't want 2 number columns. And you can do that double click trick on other columns. You can do that on any company field. It's going to go back out and bring back the company name for you. You can do that on business unit. You can do that on any UDC column coming from JD Edwards. So like, for example, PV means voucher and PM means debit memo. And if you want to see those descriptions, again, all you have to do is a double click. And if you were in a table that contained item numbers and the description wasn't in there, you can do a double click and bring back those descriptions also. Okay, so already we're making this look like a more valuable report. Let's continue on and do some other things. For what I'm doing, I don't need these descriptions, so I'm just going to go ahead and right click and delete those out of there. But maybe what I want to do is combine the number and the name into one column. So I'm highlighting those columns and again, doing right click, going down to this category called quick calculations. And all in DAS, we have about 110 calculations for you to actually use within DAS. About half of them show in this category called quick calculations, and they're called quick calculations for a reason. You highlight the columns, you choose the calculation, and we do the work for you behind the scenes. So in this case, I'm going to come down and do text and then choose concatenation, and that you'll see that it combines them together, has the number first and the name separated by a space dash space. If you don't like that space dash space, then you can double click on that to get into the calculation. You can take out that space dash space. So like, for example, if I take that out and do save and close, I can get rid of that. But then if I want it back, I'm like, shoot, I really like that. I can do the undo and get that back in there quickly. So I'm going to rename this one and just call it vendor. So you can do that associated description on whatever columns that you need. Again, there's no restrictions there. Okay, let's add in some other calculations so you can see how easy this is. Let's say that I know the difference between the gross amount and the open amount is amount paid, but there's not a column in JD Edwards called amount paid. No big deal. I can create my own calculation. So I'm going to highlight those columns again, right click, go down to quick calculations, and this time I am going to choose math and then look at all of these calculations that you have available. I always tell people, if you're not really sure what it does, try it. The worst thing that can happen is that it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, try again. And if it doesn't work from there, you have resources. Vic mentioned the Reports Now Academy. We have videos out there to help you. We have support tickets that you can enter. So we have lots of resources to help you if you get stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and choose difference this time. It's doing a difference between the gross amount and the open amount. And we're going to name this amount paid so that we know what it is. So that was really easy to do. Oh, geez. Okay, so now let's do another one really quick. Let's say that I need to know how many days I have to pay this voucher. So I'm going to highlight those two columns again and right click, go down into quick calculations, this time choose date. And again, there's a whole bunch that are available for you. I'm going to choose date difference and rename this one and call this one, oops, I deleted that. So I'm going to do an undo. Luckily, there's that undo there, and we'll rename this one and call this one days to pay. Okay, so far that seems pretty easy. I hope you agree. In addition to those calculations that you can get to through a right click, we have another option for you. I'm going to go into design and go into calculations. And you see this time that these are all the calculations that we've created so far. When I come down to a new line and hit this, this is going to show me all of those calculations that are available. This is where that list of 110 calculations that I showed you came through. And as we come through, you can see there's specific ones for Enterprise One. There's a lot of different calculations. But the one that I want to highlight for you is the formula calculation. So this one is used if you're the kind of person that likes Excel formulas and you like being able to type in the syntax and put in the brackets and the parentheses and all of that, we give this to you as an option too to create your calculations. So I'm going to choose the date difference calculation and show you how you can do that within the formula. So I'm going to choose date difference, and then I'm going to grab the due date column and then put a comma and then invoice date and choose that. Now notice that when my formula is valid, it's going to highlight green. We're not going to let you create an improper formula when it's red. So when you're done, you can press OK, do save and close. And then now you'll see that if I did it right, I have the same kind of numbers in here that I did when I created it using the calculation. So depending on what you want to do, you can either use calculations, you can use formulas, you can use combination of the both. But here's some examples of things that I could see that you could do with calculations. Maybe you could do something to forecast the new amounts, what they would look like with price changes, or use dates to determine if your suppliers have on-time delivery, or look at sales for this month and last month. There's lots of different possibilities within calculations and formulas to help you analyze the data and make sure that your business runs efficiently. Okay, so I'm going to delete this one. I don't need two columns that show the same thing. So now as we're looking at this, this is just basically a grid of data, right? So if you were to publish this to users, they wouldn't know how they're supposed to filter the data and get relevant information. So maybe I want them to be able to filter by the vendor. And you can see when I drag it up to the top, we call this a parameter. This makes it very easy for the user. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the document some of these other columns up here. And now you can see when the user comes in, they're going to say, oh, I think that I should come in and filter on a vendor number. And now when I do that, see, it passes it down to the filter line, and I'm filtering specifically for that vendor. That's kind of nice. I'm going to go ahead and use the visual assist on the document company. This is going to take me out to my list of companies. And if I wanted to multiple select from here, I definitely could. So I'm just using that famous control key. And now it's passing in the document companies. It's putting some syntax in here. So if you wanted to put in 70 semicolon 50 semicolon 60, you could. But now you can see that it's passing it down to the company, and I'm looking at records for those different companies. Hopefully that's making sense how that works. So within the invoice date ranges, you can also use the visual assist. I don't have any data for here, but you can see it's the same thing. I can filter by the dates if you wanted to. Now, the beauty of these parameters is that that makes it flexible, right? So I don't have to have things hard coded. I could use this same report out to different users who are responsible for different companies. You can filter, and that makes it really nice to be able to make this more flexible for the users. Okay, so while we're talking about parameters, we talked about there's some new functionality that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and I grab the parameters, and notice I can move them to different parts of my screen. So if I want the parameter panel to be over here on the left-hand side, I could do that. And if I choose undo, it'll go back up to the top, hopefully. So there's other things that we can do with parameters, and I'll show you that toward the end. Okay, let's clean this report up a little bit. I don't need these two columns because they're used along that calculation column. And we'll just leave it like that for right now. The other thing that's really nice is that we can do groupings to do subtotals. So if I right click and group by this column, notice how now I have subtotals, and I can see at a real quick glance what's happening for each one of my vendors. As I come in, maybe I wanted to also do another grouping by the document type. So now that I can see with these different document types, I have subtotals and that I have grand totals. If I'm going to go ahead and get some more data here. So if for some reason I wanted to not show the subtotal level, I could click in here and turn it off. And if I want it back on, I can unsuppress. I can change the grand totals, turn them on, turn them off, whatever I need to do here. So that's kind of nice. If I want that days to pay to be something more like an average, I can change that to an average. And even along that grand total line, I can add in new totals, even if there isn't one there to begin with. So if I want to count on records, I can go ahead and put that count in. While this is open, I want to show you some functionality that just people really love. Notice that when I come over to that document type column or that document number, it looks like a hyperlink. So whenever you see that within DAS, that's your clue that you can right click and drill down into associated details. So right now we're on the AP side. If I wanted to see the GL side, then I can right click and drill down. It's going to pass into the associated information into the GL table. And then I can see at a real quick glance, what is it? Is it posted? What is the account that it's going to get posted to? Is there subledger types? Are there explanations, so on and so forth? So our customers love that functionality of being able to get to those details. That means you don't have to go back into JDE and figure out how to get to the 911. You don't have to open up another report within DAS to get to those details. It's right there at your fingertips. We have tons of drill downs built in, so that if I were to go to the business unit and right click, it would take me to the business unit master. If I go to the company, it's going to take me to the company master. If you right click and you're like, well, I really need that to go to some other location, that's fine. We give you the ability to create your own custom drill downs too. Okay, so I'm going to save this report, and that you might say, okay, what's next with this report? I have this report created. Now what's next? This is my report, and I can use it at any time. I can come in later today, change the parameters, and press run and get the real-time data. So it's my report, but I can also share it with others. And as I share it, it's going to go out to the public workspace, and then that person can find it and run it from there and get the runtime data. I can set up a task in scheduler, which is Automator, and automatically have this run and send emails out maybe to my AP clerks if I want to do it that way. And then I can also start adding those additional presentation layers like I showed you in the beginning. So remember I showed you that cash flow that had the presentation layer. I can add that in. I can create a dashboard and I can create a form. But remember how I said the starting point is always a report. Now that I have that report created, I can do those additional layers. Okay, this report was based off of one table, so we definitely have the ability to bring in more than one table. And we have 3 different ways to do that, and I'm just going to talk about it high level. But for example, say that I know I need information from the address book and the phone numbers table. I could come out here and search and see if JD Edwards has already created a business view for me to use to start with. The advantage of doing that is that they've already decided how to get to join the tables together and how to get them to talk to each other. But I could go in, start with this table, eliminate the one in the middle that I don't need. I can add in additional columns, and then I can use that as my starting point. So you can start with what JD Edwards created. You can create your own join from scratch. And then we have another way to bring in tables too. We also can bring in other non-JD Edwards data sources. So I'm going to come up to this icon up here, which is for external data, and choose new. And that you can see that natively out of the gate that these are the data sources that we hook to. Hopefully that's going to come up in a second. Well, I'll let Vic talk about that. Oh, here we go. It has Access and Excel and ODBC, SQL, Oracle. These are the ones that we hook to natively. But if you have a cloud-based solution, we can also hook to those. And Vic will talk about that more in a little bit. Okay, we've talked about templates. Let me show you some of the templates. We have 540 templates. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose that T icon for templates. And you can tell that they're broken out by different categories right now. That cash flow statement that I showed you in the beginning, that was a template. But what you can do is do that same search. So maybe I want to see if there's an as of, what kind of as of reports that we have out here. We have an as of inventory. There's one for AR. There's one for AP. When you see that green X next to that T icon, that means that has Excel, the presentation layer associated with it. If I open up this template and go in and take a look at it, you'll see how that we have that defined. So you could come in if you wanted to and take off that presentation layer, change it to be more of what your corporate colors are. You could, when it runs here, we're going to go back over to the data tab. You can see that these are how all of the columns are defined. If I don't want this column, I can right click and delete it. If I need to add in some additional columns, I can go up into design columns and grab in some additional columns. So these are fully customizable. And that's the point of them. That might get you all the way. It might be 100% exactly what you need, but go out there and see if we have a template and use it as your starting point to create a report. Okay, so that kind of covers templates. There's a bunch of them. I don't know them all off the top of my head. There's 140 of them. But another example is that if you can come out here and look at a balance sheet and look at some of these templates. And let's say that you go in and you're like, well, this isn't exactly what I need. That's okay. You can start. We have a way to create a financial report from scratch. And we do that through the wizard over here. I'm going to go ahead and press the new button. We call those quick reports. So, in the beginning, I showed you how to do quick calculations where you right click and we make it easy for you to create calculations. A quick report is the same thing. You're going to go through this wizard. You're going to go through a series of 4 tabs and say, I need this, this, and this, and that we're going to create the base shell for you for your report. So I'm going to go ahead, oops, and I'm going to choose financials, hit that arrow. I'm going to be in the wizard now. Let's say that I decide I want to do an income statement. You get the choice if you need your category codes from the chart of accounts or the business unit master. As you know, in JDE, it stores the revenues and liabilities as negatives. If you want to show that as a positive, you check reverse sign. You get the choice of the kind of columns that you create. You can decide how you want your columns to be named. If you wanted to produce something like bring in additional ledger types, maybe you wanted to bring in your budgets, you could bring in your budget ledger types. I can change these column names. These are coming from JD Edwards, but if I want to change them, I can definitely change them. And then you go over the rows tab. We have 3 different ways to create rows. You can use your chart of accounts and it'll use that level of detail out in your chart of accounts. And then you can decide how you want your rows to get labeled, how much detail that you want in your rows. If you want to do something for like a trial balance and just show the account and the amount, the amount, you can do an account group. But a lot of times we find that people need to create their own rows. So rather than how the balance sheet would look or how it would look for just using account group, you have a specific way on how you want to see your rows. So these rows have already been created. That's nice that once you get those created, you can actually save them and reuse them on different reports. And you could tell this one's a kind of an extensive list, but what I've done is that I've gone in and I said, I want row 1 to be profit. Row 2, I want to be total revenue. Here's my object account range. Row 3 is cost of goods sold. Here's my other accounts. And then I actually have some subtotals in here. So the nice thing about using the list is that you can define exactly how you want your rows to look and what's contained in them. This example has object accounts, but it doesn't have to be object accounts. It can be category codes. It could be a combination of category codes and object accounts. Whatever you need here, we can define those rows that way. Then you go to the special tab. This asks for how you want to get prompted for the dates. by the date or the period of year, and then you're going to press create report, and then you're going to have that base shell for you, and you'll see how easy that is to get started. I created columns for AA and I created columns for BA. Through the wizard, I said create some for the period and year to date. The column captions look funny right now because it's waiting for you to put in a period and a year. So as I put in that information and take a look at it, you'll see that the column captions update automatically, the data changes, and that these are the rows that were defined in the list. What's nice about these columns is they're not hard coded. So as I come through and take a look at them, notice now that these updated for July for me automatically. They're not hard coded at any level. And then from here, let's say that, okay, this gets me almost there, but what I need to do is that maybe I need to figure out how much of my remaining budget I have left. So I can grab these two columns and then do those famous quick calculations again and go into difference here and then move it and then call this something like, remaining budget or something like that. But the point is that once you come out of the wizard, if you need additional columns, then you can definitely grab some additional and create additional columns. Just like I showed you in the beginning, where you can drill down when we are in accounts payable, you can also drill down when you're looking at a financial report. So, this is based off of the balances table, but if I want to see the individual transactions that make up that detail, I can still do that same thing like I showed you earlier, where you can right click, drill down, it'll open up the GL detail table, and then with any luck, that amount matches this amount, and then I could see all these associated details. Okay. So that's how easy it is to create a financial report. So again, what's next with this report? So just like with that last report that I showed you, this is my report, but I can come in at any time and change the parameters. I can share it with others. They can come in and run it and change it for whatever data that they need. I could also do what I did in the beginning and set it up to run in scheduler, add in something and have it actually run for each one of my companies and have that automatically emailed. So I can do that also. I can add in those additional presentation or visual layers like I showed you before. So there's lots of options. And again, this is the starting point. And then once you have that done, that's the different things that you can do with it. So Vic mentioned some of the new functionality that we have out there. I want to show you some of those. Let me get to this report to show you a couple of great things. This one. All right, so as I open up this report, these are some of the different things that you can do with parameters. So notice that I have some grouping put on them. So I have a tab for standard parameters or standard required parameters over here. The ability for the users to make it easy to see what they need to filter on. So in our prior releases, the parameters just went all the way down the screen. So now we have the ability to group them and change them up a little bit, put tabs on them. So if I want them to filter specifically by category codes, whatever it makes it easier for them to see what they need to filter on, we can do these type of things. But groupings, all of that kind of stuff. Within this report, the things that I wanted to point out to you on this one is that we're trying, again, in this one, comparing the AA amounts to the BA amount and look for the remaining budget. And if there isn't a remaining budget, then I put in a calculation that basically said, if the remaining budget is less than 0, type in this message, please explain the variance. And with that new comment functionality, then I want the users to be able to come in and justify what's going on. Why are your actual amounts higher than your budget amounts? So you can see that this is what the user typed in. The legal fees are greater than anticipated. And as I'm hovering, can you see that it has the audit trail information? So it has my name, the date, and everything that was updated. This information, the last person in that comes in and updates this, it's going to have the audit trail information. When this report gets published out to the subscribers, they are also going to be able to come in and put in and explain the variance, and so that everybody has a good understanding of what's going on when these budgets are, what they shouldn't be. Okay, so hopefully you can see that from what we can do at DAS, within DAS, that this meets the needs of any level. So from basic report design to visualizations to scheduling, and there's a ton of a variety of calculations and formulas that you can create for more complex calculations. So we've got you covered. No matter what you need to do, DAS can handle it. Okay, Bob, back to you.
Candy, thank you. That was a great demo. It's obvious why ReportsNow is considered the de facto reporting tool for JD Edwards. Now we've got some time, a little time for, we have a little bit of time for some questions here. Victor, first question is, does ReportsNow connect to SaaS solutions like Salesforce?
Vic, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yes, Candy mentioned earlier that we have many native connections to database types, SQL, Access, Oracle, DB2, and so on, Excel. But we partner with a company called Seed Data that builds ADO.NET connectors to SaaS-based solutions. So we can not only connect to SaaS-based solutions using these connectors, like a Salesforce or a NetSuite or ADP or many other things. I mean, they have probably 150 different connectors. Not only can we connect to those things, report against those, but we can even blend that data with your JD Edwards data into a single report, single form, single dashboard, so on. And yes, probably, gosh, 80% of our customers heavily use external data connections.
Okay, great. Another question, how does ReportsNow compare to Hubble?
Oh, wow. Man, I try to avoid this question a lot of times. Excuse me, but I mean, it is a legitimate question. The first thing I would say is that, I had a conversation with Insight's partner acquisition manager some time ago, and he let me know that they're focusing on 4 ERPs at this time and moving forward. JD Edwards was not one of those. So, if you're wanting to use Hubble for, an SAP or something like that, I would certainly consider Hubble for that. But there's and I mentioned earlier that there's not a lot of that we're doing a lot of new innovative things and with the product and focusing entirely on JD Edwards, where that's clearly not the case there. I would say a couple of other things that come to mind. Price is always a big one. I know they're a lot more expensive than we are. And then look, I don't know everything about Hubble, just like they don't know everything about us. What I can tell you is what I shared earlier. Part of what I shared earlier, I've been here 12 years. We've never been replaced by Hubble, not a single time. We replace Hubble 15 to 20 times a year, and it's really increasing right now because of Hubble's moving away from JD Edwards. So what I can tell you is what I said earlier, and that is, when when a customer has done a side-by-side trial, excuse me, guys, take a drink of water here. When a customer has done a side-by-side trial with us and any other solution out there, including Hubble, DAS has always been picked. For July will be 11 years ago the last time that didn't happen. And the reason that the trial is so important is that it gives you an opportunity as a prospective customer to see for sure what each tool has to offer. There's nothing hidden. So, at the end of a 30-day trial, you'll know. And so, I trust that 100% track record over the last 11 years in side-by-side trials says a lot more than I can truly say about the true comparisons.
Okay, thanks, Victor. All right, I think those are our questions. To do a little bit of house cleaning here, just want to remind everybody that to mark your calendars for the next JDE Talks, April 20th, where we'll be talking about focusing on Blueprint 4D conference coming up, where both ReportsNow and Broadpin will be attending. I will actually be in the booth, so I encourage anybody listening now to please come by the booth to say hello. I'd love to start a conversation with you. So With that, I'd like to thank both Victor and Candy for your time today and look forward to seeing you all next month.